Hey, Carl here. The following podcast was recorded at 11 a.m. on Monday, February 10th, 2025. All information presented was true and valid up to the time of recording. Let's get started. Welcome to Crayon Box Politics Weekly, your go-to podcast for breaking down the latest in state and federal legislation. I'm Carl, a retired Marine turned political enthusiast, here to help you stay informed and engaged.
I'm Avery, your co host on this journey. Together, we're going to unpack the policies and decisions shaping our lives one bill at a time.
Each week, we'll take you inside the halls of power to explore the stories behind the headlines, cutting through the noise to bring you clear, actionable updates.
Whether it's a bill that's just been introduced, a vote you need to know about, or legislation that's flying under the radar, we've got you covered.
So grab your favorite color from the crayon box and let's draw some clarity from the chaos. Starting off with federal legislation and looking at the House of Representatives first, there were a total of 283 pieces of legislation introduced last week. 244 of those pieces of legislation were bills, 31 were simple resolutions, 6 were joint resolutions, and 2 were concurrent resolutions. In addition to the introduction of all of that legislation, there were 13 total pieces of legislation passed. Many of them were passed via voice vote, with H.R. 27 being the primary bill that was passed, and that dealt with the classification of fentanyl as a class 1 narcotic to ensure that we give the federal government and the legal authorities to prosecute individuals who are trafficking fentanyl across our borders, both in the north and the south. That bill passed on the 6th of February with a majority of 312 to 108 voting against it. The 108 included 107 Democrats and one Republican. The Republican was Representative Massey from Kentucky, who voted no. Beyond that, there were 13 representatives who did not vote at all, 3 Republican, 10 Democrat. Last Wednesday, the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee did meet on a hearing to right size the government. That was a fairly spicy meeting in that Nancy Mace did decide to drop in there and leave some beautiful transphobic words and transphobic slurs. And she was rebuked by the ranking member, but at the end of the day, she was not held to account for her failure to maintain decorum. In addition to that, on Thursday, there was the subcommittee on science, and that subcommittee did go through and review or have a hearing titled Transgender Lab Rats and Poisoned Puppies. In that hearing, they did bring in some beagles, which was pretty awesome to have beagles there, but it was a fairly muted committee meeting or subcommittee meeting in that there wasn't much of a back and forth between the members with regards to whether or not they agreed with what the hearing was about or what the measures were, because everyone was fairly much on the same page when it came to the use of animals for testing drugs and testing different scientific processes when it came to biology. So again, it was a fairly muted one, not as spicy as the full committee meetings were. Looking forward, the House of Representatives has not published a list of the bills that they plan to consider this week. However, they did publish a schedule of their committee meetings with 25 committee meetings scheduled for this week. The most significant for me being that the Delivering on Government Efficiency subcommittee of the Oversight and Government Reform Committee is going to be holding their very first meeting titled The War on Waste, Stamping Out the Scourge of Improper Payments and Fraud. The subcommittee is chaired by Congressman Marjorie Taylor Greene, so I can bet you that that one is going to be fairly spicy in its endeavors. So it'll be a good one to watch, and that is going on Wednesday. So if you want to tune in, we'll have the link to that one in the show notes. Beyond that, just seems to be regular hearings with regards to the budget, with regards to energy and oversight. So overall, just business as usual in the House. But that's all I got for the House of Representatives. Avery, how'd the Senate treat you over there last week?
You know, they're still just doing confirmation hearing after confirmation hearing. I keep seeing, legislation come over, but we're not doing anything about it. Like, we're just kind of ignoring it. There were 120 pieces total. 102 of them were bills, 12 for simple resolutions, and then we got 6 joint resolutions. But again, they're just stalled at this point. They're not going through it all. I don't even see really anything being discussed other than confirmation hearings. And we got a vote was confirmed for the Office of Management and Budget. So that's about it. The rest of them, they're trying to get through this week. And we have 20 meetings this week. We do have budget committee coming up. And as you know, the budget, the resolution, it ends in March, so they're going to be trying to get the deal through there. And they're meeting Wednesday and Thursday, so I mean it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be interesting, unless you want to sit through confirmation hearings, which I mean I'm all for it because it just gets us. It lets you know what we're going to get. We got Tulsi Gabbard is up next, and Kash Patel. So those two they're still trying to push their way into. Then we got, Kennedy. So we'll see how that goes. But mine's not spicy, unlike your house meetings. I wish they were, but they're just like every once in a while you might get a Warren gonna say something, but it's nothing like watching Crockett and Green. So I'm a little jealous over there. You get more entertainment and excitement than I do.
Hey, the House of the People, man. Like that's just how it is, right?
Just like that, that Doge meeting. Like I'm a little jealous. You got Crockett and Green going to be there again. Jesus.
Yeah, Crockett, Stansbury, Green. It should be proved to be a very, very interesting meeting. And like we were talking offline, it's very interesting to me that that subcommittee is chaired by a woman. The ranking member, the senior Democrat, is a woman, and then the Republican side of that is seated by all men, whereas the Democrat side is seated by 2 women, 3 men. So on the Democrat side, if you include the ranking member, they've got a fairly even split. And then on the Republican side, you have a woman who is in charge of men. So it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out,
I
especially
mean,
given the fact that, the new Doge Bros tend to think of women as second class citizens. So
listen, MTG, she begged and begged and begged to be in charge of a committee. So they just got tired of hearing her beg. So, does that mean that she was a DEI hire for that committee? I'm just throwing that out there.
hey, it's I would say yes, but
I mean, tell me
goodness.
where it's wrong. I mean,
I don't want to stoop that low because I
yeah, you're welcome. That makes me wonder: is Bobert in charge of anything, or because she's another one that we're begging for and DEI hire. But here we
yeah,
are.
I'll have to get back to you on that one and figure out whether or not Bobert has any type of chairwoman responsibilities. But I do know that Mace and Green definitely have chairwoman capability or
and
responsibilities.
and I'm not trying to shit on them because I'm glad that the Republicans actually have some women doing some things instead of just demanding that they go back to the kitchen or back to their homes. But you know I did see to the transgendered mice they spent what was it we saw offline $10 million they spent on that
Mm-hmm.
study. Jesus, talk about spending issues. Yeah, no,
Yes.
you go
So
ahead.
I just did a look. Bobert doesn't have any chairwoman responsibilities on oversight. So she's just there. She's in
You know,
existence.
That's what happens when you switch districts in Colorado, I guess. So you get a win. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
strategically sound. I'm not shitting on that whatsoever. I mean, that was a smart move, but yeah, that's kind of all I got. Like, unless you're going to sit through a confirmation hearing, which still goes on for 5 or 6 hours, it's just one side trying to pin the other side in gotcha moments. I mean, that's all it is.
I mean, that's the nature of politics, right? Is the
I mean,
gotcha moment.
I guess let's. I don't know. They haven't been that great, but these people are going to lead our organization, so it's important to watch. But yeah, that's all I got for you.
Well, in that case, maybe we should move on to the state legislation.
Let's do it. I mean,
So,
unless you want more confirmation hearings, that's what I got for you
nah, I don't, but you're going to get them all week this week.
for the second education. So there's that.
Yeah, I wonder how that's going to play out given the fact that Mr. Musk decided to announce that education was gone.
Oh, I mean,
Does that mean that they still have to confirm her, or is it no longer an issue?
well, see, here's the thing: is Trump, when he appointed her, said that he wants her to put herself out of a job. So they're still on the same page. Like they want to get rid of the Department of Education, which, I was talking to my wife, like, would that mean that, hey, you don't have to go to school anymore? I know it says, we'll go to the states, but if there's no Department of Education whatsoever, there is no schooling. That's where your funds come from.
Well, that's where federal funding comes from, right? So that the Department of Education doesn't really have any type of control over what is being taught in the schools, and I think that's the biggest problem with the misconceptions that apply to federal agencies, especially the Department of Education, is that the DOE does not have the ability to reach down and be like, you will teach this. Whereas what they do have the ability to do is reach down and provide grants, to provide loans, to oversee the FAFSA, to ensure that students are getting the money or schools are getting the money that they need in order to provide the proper education for their students at each specific level. So I think that we're in the fuck around phase right now.
Yeah.
And I think that at the end of this semester or this half of the school year and going into the next school year, parents are definitely going to be in the find out phase where they discovered that the education system that, it is broken, but I think that what they're going to find out is that the education system is now going to be horribly and morosely destroyed. Kids that are graduating from high school right now looking to get into college and filling out their FAFSAs are going to find out that, well, there's no more money because the Department of Education is gone, so there's no one to manage the FAFSA. So
I mean,
yeah.
looking at it now with the freeze that we have, a lot of what I heard is the special needs children and their parents are already in the find out stage. So
Mhm.
that's going to increase even worse, But on a side note, the whole Department of Education and what he decided to do makes me think of the pennies, which they got rid of. No more circulating there. The new pennies, because it costs 3 cents to make a penny, which is interesting as hell. I just got a alert that the next issue is our nickels. Nickels cost 13 cents to make. Yeah, yeah,
So
13.
again, we're still in that fuck around phase, right? Like I'm okay with pennies because pennies are just ludicrous and nobody uses them anymore, right?
My
Like
God.
who carries around a pocket full of pennies? And I mean they're worth less than they cost to make. I'm okay, got it. But at the same time, when you have pennies, it allows you to charge down to the cent, right? And when we get rid of them, now you're going to look at rounding up or rounding down. And I guarantee you that companies are going to round up, not down. So if you have something that is $5.99, well, guess what? Now it's $6.
Oh my God. There's a pro penny funded group, by the way.
Oh my God.
But yeah, so since it takes 3.7 cents to make a penny, which is interesting. Each nickel costs 13.8 cents. with 11 of those cents going to production costs. And there's, it's basically nickels are going to almost double what the amount of nickels is going to need. So, yeah. And my other thought and my other question, because like I said, the whole what we did last night brought me to the pennies is, should we hang on to pennies, and will they, museum want them one day, and have we get lots of money for them, one of those things.
Yeah, that was going to be my next
uh,
point is, hey,
uh,
followers, hold on to your pennies because they're going to be worth
uh,
a lot down the road.
sorry to steal your thunder. Hate stealing your
You
thunder,
just
but
ripped that wind out of my sails. Interesting,
Jesus.
though. It'll be interesting to see, what that executive order is, right? Is it a, hey, stop making these, but we're still going to keep pennies in circulation? Or is it going to be, stop making these and pull them out of circulation? We're no longer dealing in pennies, and then stop making nickels and pull them out of circulation. We're no longer dealing in nickels. At which
Which
point now we're going to be going up by 10 cents, right? So if something is $5.99, guarantee you companies are going to call it $6.10.
we're just gonna go to a digital currency. That's what Bitcoin and stuff is for, which they're trying to push on everybody anyway. So there's that.
Remember in his first term where he was very opposed to digital currencies?
Oh, very much so. And what what I what I read earlier, and what's interesting is all those people who bought the Trump coin, it ended up making you over $109 million if you had bought a stock in, or some stocks in the Trump coin meme. But it plummeted all of a sudden. So you lost, it's back down to $17 a share now. But
Yet digital currency is so volatile, it's not even funny.
we were joking around. I was like, "Hey, buy your Trump coins." We could have. God, next time
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it. I swear. Next time I'm gonna do it. It's gonna happen. Just even two stocks that I make, $200,000. I'll be happy. I'll be fine with that. Get me out of debt.
And we'll talk more on like the executive orders, but before we get there, I would really like to hit state legislation.
Yeah. Sorry, I just happened to see.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah. By the way, we're shitting on everything. Sorry. Go ahead.
Last week, we promised you that we were going to be looking at gun rights and state laws and legislation that apply to the Second Amendment. And just like every week, there are so many different pieces of legislation out there, and every single state has some sort of legislation on the books dealing with gun rights and gun safety. But we chose only a few states just to keep with the time limits of the podcast, and those states that we're going to focus on are Alaska, Alabama, Connecticut, Missouri, North Carolina, and that's it. Starting off with Alaska, their law is Alaska SB3, titled the Safe Schools Act. Now, this was a Republican introduced bill, and this bill is quoted as being something that entitles or allows schools to have qualified persons who are on an assigned duty and allowed to carry a pistol in a concealed manner on campus. I wholeheartedly disagree with this bill. And I disagree with this bill in that during the vice presidential debate, now Vice President Vance, he did make a few comments that really stunned me, right? So when talking about school safety and in talking about ensuring that our students can go to school in a safe manner, he talked about fortifying our schools. And that shouldn't be something that we have to do. And I think placing a weapon on a teacher, on an educator, or in this sense, a volunteer per this law is a dangerous thing to do, simply because of the fact that you wind up with individuals who are going to have weapons on their person, and in the event of a school shooting are going to brandish those weapons and use those weapons. And I get that the state is establishing, training regimens and training standards and requiring individuals to maintain continuing education with the use of their weapons. The problem I have is that you're just going to wind up with the situation where law enforcement's going to show up to the scene and there's going to be utter chaos and confusion. Where in Texas and Uvalde, you had the police officers who were afraid to enter the school because they didn't want to get shot themselves and failed to take action, resulting in students dying. Now you're going to have law enforcement officers who may go into the schools and they may shoot the wrong person because they just don't know. Granted, the law does require the districts to provide a list of their names and a list of their policies and their plans and the blueprints to local law enforcement agencies, but that doesn't negate the whole fog of war concept, right? My other issue here is that the way that the law is written, it's written that school districts shall grant qualified persons an assigned duty to carry a concealed handgun. Shall, not may, not can, but shall. And what shall means is that they will. Like now you are required to do this. If you are a school district and you do not do this, then you are in violation of the law. So now what we have is school districts are going to be scrambling to put their teachers or their volunteers through this training, right? And what adds to this is the fact that the law also requires school districts to pay for the training. So not only are teachers going to have to go to this training, and not only are teachers going to be on duty like you're in the military or something, but now the school districts have to scramble to find funding to pay for this type of training that has nothing to do with the education of our students. So our education system is broken, but we're going to go ahead and funnel money towards training our teachers how to shoot people. Like, where is the sense in that? So I disagree 100% with this bill.
See, and this is where we differ because, as a whole, I agree with it, and I think most of it comes from the fear of the shooting in Texas happening again, which it totally may, and it's unfortunate. And I think that's why we have resource officers who typically carry the resource officer. At Sandy Hook, remember he was carrying, and he did not go in, and because you're technically not required to. I think that when you get sworn into that job, that you absolutely, your to me, your job is to protect. Once, and if you can't do that or not going to do that, then what the fuck is the point of even being into that position? Now, as far as, I don't think that we should, require a teacher to carry. They have enough that they're already getting underpaid for. Much less that. I think there should be certain, volunteers or people that you pay, like a resource officer, who carries, or there are enough um veterans around the country who have absolutely offered before to stand, in the school, at the school, you know and take care of things. I do agree that it could pose an issue for, who's actual shooter and who's not. But I think, if they would have to, the volunteers would have to be able to identify themselves in some way, whether it's a uniform or a badge, or one of the little, hey, we're gonna scan into things. That's where I agree with, and what I disagree with about it. But having a parent of I have a special needs kid, and they would just be a sitting duck if something happened. And we've gone over, if things happen over and over and over. And she was like, got it. I'm gonna hide underneath, even if it's my friend, I'm gonna hide underneath them. And you shouldn't have to do that as a child. You explain as a child. And you know we have all these metal detectors and whatnot, and weapons are still getting past them. The middle school that my daughter would have gone to, they just had an incident where a student brought in a gun, and the teachers had no idea until a kid saw it and reported it. So it, I do think, volunteers would be great, but there should be tests and things that you have to do to do that. That's my little rant on that.
So see, here's the thing that really kind of ruffles my feathers, right?
Okay.
Or
Yep.
grinds my gears.
Oh Jesus.
We like to do this thing where we talk about, parental rights. We want parents to be involved in their students' education. But these kids are heading to school and they're taking these guns to school. Where the fuck are the parents?
Absolutely.
Like if we want to, if we really want to impact gun safety, if we really want to impact school safety, it starts at home. It starts
Absolutely.
at where teachers, not teachers, but parents are ensuring that their students aren't walking out the door with a gun in their fucking backpack,
Well, I mean,
right?
what
Like,
what was it?
how have we gotten to this point where parents are like, "Oh, you can't read this book to my kid, but I'm not going to do anything to protect my kid from taking guns to school." Like, stop it right now.
What was
Just,
it?
just stop.
Was it Michigan who started who brought charges against the school shooter's parents for like the
I don't
first time
remember the
ever?
state.
I think it was Michigan. Wholeheartedly agree. Absolutely. Like, what the fuck? Like, why are transgender people an issue to you? But here we are, and I don't want to hear any bullshit about the transgender, maybe transgender shooter, because we all know it's typically the little cisgendered white boy who is going around shooting people because the hate the hate is real. But I think it was Michigan.
It was Michigan.
Oh, look at
You're
that.
right. Yeah, yeah, it was Michigan.
That's like the first time that's happened, and I agree with it. But then you run into issues with what I think it was Sandy Hook, who the kid shot his parent and then went to school and shot up. Yeah, it was Sandy Hook, and then shot up all those kids. Or maybe it wasn't Sandy Hook. It was one of those. Anyway, so there's so many, like, you can't even keep track of them anymore. Um,
Right, but we have this thing where we consistently, and I'm not saying that it's perfect, right? Like if a kid shoots the parent, then
right.
you can't hold the
That's
parent to
what.
blame, right? But
Right.
at the same
Absolutely.
time, at the same time, we do this thing where we rant and we rave about, oh well, my child is being taught this, but you're not involved in your kid's life at all. Like
Yeah.
if you don't recognize the warning signs coming from your kid that they're potentially going to be violent or they're potentially going to react in a way that could cause harm to him or herself and their classmates,
Sometimes there aren't
then
signs.
uh, but as a parent there you've got to see like the behavior changes.
I don't know.
You have to. There is a. You don't just wake up one day and say, "I'm happy and I'm going to kill everyone," right?
I
Like,
mean, we just ran into that with my kid though. Had no idea that she was feeling like feeling like hurting herself, gonna shoot herself with my gun. Like, came out of left field, didn't see it coming. Like, and I keep track of everything my kid does, and it was just she got upset because a boy told her that she was ugly, and all of a sudden we just wanted to. It literally came out of left field. Had no sign, no nothing. But again,
so
that special needs, we don't have, emotions like everybody else. So not every parent's gonna see a sign.
but this is where I'm getting with it, right? So the difference between you and the way that you parent and the way that all of these Karens parent and talk about banning books because they might turn their child transgender is that these Karens aren't doing what you do. These Karens aren't actively monitoring and actively being engaged in their child's life. They're not actively trying to ensure that their child is safe and ensure that their child has everything that they need when it comes to their mental health. They're not doing that. They're just
Eh,
letting their kids do whatever they want and ignoring them because they want to be YouTube stars or they want to be TikTok stars or they want to be OnlyFans stars, right? But at the end of the day, they're also concerned that a book will turn their child transgender or will turn their child gay.
I mean, I guess I see it that way. I think it's honestly, I think it's because one, the military, two, the PTSD, and three, being trans and having to deal with all those feelings. You always, for me, I just want to make sure that my kid isn't dealing with those things. So unfortunately, yeah, I guess I'd have to agree with you there, and it's unfortunate. Those people who bitch and then they don't actually monitor their kid.
Yeah, long story short, it's an accountability thing. So
Absolutely,
I think that what we really should be doing is passing laws that say, hey, listen, if your child shoots up a school, the parent is held accountable.
absolutely. Just like we said, Michigan, 100%.
That brings us to prohibitions, right? And this one this one comes out of Alabama, right? And we talk about like Alaska was more of a, hey, we're going to ensure that we have guns in schools to protect our kids. Alabama is saying, hey, you can't own a certain type of gun. And Alabama has SB 31 and HB 26. They're basically the same bill, but they're worded slightly different. SB 31 deals with the generic term of machine guns, and it prohibits machine guns writ large, and it doesn't just end at machine guns, right? It prohibits the ownership and possession of the weapon itself, of the upper receiver, of the lower receiver, of anything that could turn a weapon or transition a weapon into an automatic weapon. And they use the ATF definition for a machine gun in both of these bills, right? And the ATF definition is any weapon which shoots or is designed to shoot or can be readily restored to shoot automatically more than one shot without manual reloading by a single function of the trigger. HB 26 deals with the possession of pistols, which can be modified and converted into machine guns. Now, I did talk to a good friend of mine, and we were talking about both of these bills over the weekend. And one of the arguments that he brought up to me is that the bill dealing with pistols is invalid because of the fact that there is a difference between a machine pistol and a machine gun, and that that definition was defined by the National Firearms Act and the Gun Control Act. But unfortunately, he was mistaken in that aspect, right? So the reality is that a machine gun or a machine pistol have the same definition per the ATF and per the NFA and the GCA. Now, I wholeheartedly disagree with both SB 31 and HB 26, which, by the way, both were introduced by Democrats. Go figure. When it comes to gun rights, Democrats tend to err on the side of no, you can't, whereas Republicans err on the side of buy
But we
whatever you
will.
want.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they usually point to the Constitution as like, hey, Second Amendment gives me the right. Meanwhile, when it comes to First Amendment, they're like, no, you can't do that.
They let fear, they let
I
fear like
digress.
rule them. Yeah.
But the thing that really strikes a nerve with me on both of these, right? And it doesn't have to do with the fact that it's infringement on the Second Amendment, which it absolutely is. Do I think that everyone needs to be able to, excuse me, let me rephrase this. Do I think that people should be buying machine guns? No. As a Marine, I don't think that everyone needs to get a machine gun or have the ability to buy a machine gun because the, those things can put out a lot of rounds, right? Like, I,
Yeah.
I mean, the squad automatic weapon. You've got the 50 cal. You've got all of these things that can just push rounds down range, and just for the average Joe to buy them it is ludicrous. But at the
Like,
same time, that's me personally, right? Like, I personally don't think that someone should buy one. But if you have the money to buy one, I'm not going to stand in your way just because
right.
I don't agree with you buying one. That's your right. That should be your right. Now, there are already laws on the books federally that make possession of a an automatic weapon illegal. Period. And there's ways to get around that. Like you can get the tax stamp, you can get the license to purchase and own an automatic rifle or an automatic weapon. These two laws, all these laws are doing is stacking laws on laws, right? Like we're doing this thing where we want to over legislate and over we want to saturate the environment with all of these laws and make it so difficult for legal gun owners to actually just own guns. Like there's no reason for this. If a law is already on the books, why are we writing another law? Like Democrats, get your heads out of your asses. There are so much more important things to be dealing with and to be looking at than to be writing a law that is already a law. Like stop right now. Like they need to these two bills should be pulled completely out. Now, I understand being in Alabama. I mean, I'm not going to do it, but Alabama is very southern, very country, very gun ownership, very gun supportive. So I don't see these laws or this legislation getting passed. Um, but it'll be an interesting one to watch. And I wish that I was sitting in the Alabama legislature right now just so that I could watch the arguments and hear the arguments. And I would hope that someone comes up and says, listen, it's already a law. Why are we doing this? We're wasting our time. And Alabama, if you are listening and you're from Alabama, call your freaking lawmaker and tell them to kill both of these bills because they're pointless, and tell them to stop wasting your money because that's what they're doing.
I mean, yeah.
Sorry, went on a tangent there.
No, you're good. I'm with you. We talked offline. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And honestly, if you need a weapon to produce that many rounds downrange, you shouldn't be hunting anyway, because I mean, if you need a weapon that's going to produce 500,000 rounds just to hit one deer, or part of it is I'm gonna go hunt hogs. If you need that many rounds to do that, it's not the weapon that you need. You need more lessons. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Well,
I'm
to be
just
fair, if you're hunting with a machine gun, you're probably not hunting. Like, I mean,
right, right. Yeah, like you just fucking around. But I mean, like it is. Oh, I need this for defense. Again, if you need that for defense, to where you need 500 rounds to go down range in, a few seconds, my guy. Um, Again, it's not the weapon that you need. I'm just saying. Again, it doesn't mean you should. I'm kind of iffy about that. Because I want a big boy rifle. That doesn't mean that everybody should have a big boy rifle. But I'm not trying to be
mhm.
like, it's one of those. I've seen what that shit can do. I know what that shit can do. Joe Blow does not need it to fuck around with and shoot off his fucking leg. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, but I mean,
Yeah, but
if
I'm
they
not
want
saying
it,
that.
they
Right,
should be allowed to
right,
have it, right? That's it's
absolutely,
capitalism at its finest, and it's freedom. And we also have the Second Amendment for a reason. And we can
absolutely.
talk later in like another episode about where we both stand with regards to the Second Amendment, because I would say that my support of the Second Amendment is contingent upon the entire Second Amendment,
No,
whereas a lot of gun owners and the NRA look at the Second Amendment and focus only on the aspect of shall not be infringed, but they
absolutely.
don't look at the rest of it, which is the in keeping with a well-regulated militia, the right to
Yeah.
keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Right.
It,
So yeah.
and this shows that, again, like we've talked about, that just because we hit on the stupidity that we are seeing doesn't mean that we're just one party sided, because we're not. And we're both gun owners. We both look at different things. And just because I voted for Harris doesn't mean I didn't vote for Bush, because I did a long time ago. So
Yep.
Just another reminder to our listeners that they
I
might
mean,
be shocked and clutch their pearls because you know we're we're just the
I
way
was
that we are.
excited for this week because it actually gave me a chance to criticize Democrats because here we
But
have both of these are Democrat introduced bills and they're ludicrous and they're
they
doing the
are.
same shit that Democrats have been doing for years, which is passing laws on top of laws in order to do things that already exist and already being done because we don't want to enforce the laws that we already have on the books. And
I
so
mean,
Democrats are wasting their time on non-important shit instead of actually dealing with the real shit.
to be fair, Republicans do the same thing. Uh, just like here we are, they control the Senate, and we're sitting on our asses and not moving any legislation. We're
No, we
just
got the Lake and Riley Act passed.
oh wow, one.
I mean,
We just had
it's
102
there.
come up, and we're just anyway, moving on, moving
And
on to
then, I mean,
Connecticut.
hey, in the 118th, one of their final acts was designating the bald eagle as the national bird of the United
Don't
States.
even get me fucking started on that shit. I
So,
mean,
so they did
oh,
get some things done.
don't even get me started. Oh my god.
But
That
continuing our talk,
this is one that I like with Connecticut, because I would like to see it go federally like we've seen. So anyway, go ahead.
yeah, so I mean, we've seen a lot of federal legislation that's been introduced dealing with the reciprocity laws, and I wouldn't be surprised to see President Trump come out with a national reciprocity executive order.
I'm excited for that.
Uh,
I'm not gonna lie.
I can't believe I said that because you know what that means.
I know we have to agree with it. I'm with you. I am with you. I want to see it so bad. But my question
Yeah,
is it going to be hey, you can carry without a permit, or is it you have to have a permit? That's where I'm wondering.
yeah, and that's so. This one here, you do have to get a permit in the state of Connecticut, and the bill number is SB00269, and it's a really short bill, and all it is a requirement for the state to enter into reciprocity agreements with other states regarding permits to carry a pistol or revolver. Carolina citizen, you travel to Connecticut, then you'll be able to continue to carry in the manner that's consistent with North Carolina law. Whereas currently, if you go to Connecticut, you have to make sure that you follow Connecticut's laws because if memory serves me, Connecticut currently does not have reciprocity with a large number of states. But at the end of the day, I think this is a good one. I think this is a really good one. And folks, the joke that we have going is that sometimes I'll think something or I'll speak a prediction out loud about President Trump and his executive orders, and within the
But they're
week
never good ones. They're not good ones though.
they aren't, but hey, this is a
They're
good one, so
terrible.
maybe
They are terrible. Like you just keep fucking up my life, my guy. I'm like, could we stop? Could
hey,
you just
at least I'm giving you lead time, right, on some of these bad predictions.
literally a day, the last one. I think it was mere hours.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I think it was
Jesus.
too. Yeah,
Oh
absolutely.
my god.
um
It was
but
terrible.
hopefully, that if he does come out with something like that, it'll be nice to have. And we'll talk about his most recent executive order regarding protection of Second Amendment rights later on in the episode. But at the end of the day, I do think, and I do agree with this Republican introduced bill, that the state of Connecticut is actually moving into agreement with the rest of the states with regards to reciprocity. Now, I say the rest of, but not every state has reciprocity agreements with any other state. So I'll turn it over to you for input, Avery.
For um for the rest for the words I can't say. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
reciprocity.
Yeah, I was like, man, you got me with the word I can't say. You know, I I can't wait, and I hope he does come out with but federally, there's a bill already in there to make it to where you can carry in all 50 states, and it be allowed. So I agree with it. I am ready for it. But again, that's where we differ from other people. We it's common sense, and we don't let fear, you know, negate our common sense or how we think things should be done and it or laws should be made. Do I think that he should have a gun? And that's just because it's going to escalate. He's going to end up hurting himself or her or whoever. So
Yeah,
there.
so currently Connecticut, sorry to interrupt you,
Oh,
currently
you're good.
Connecticut does not honor any permits from any states in the nation.
I think California and New York are also the same way, if I remember off the top of my head. Little facts. I can't remember some things, but there are other things, man. I can remember. But yeah, I think it's California and New York are the exact same. And you have to have a permit before you can buy. You have to have a permit to buy a weapon. So those are interesting.
Yeah. Actually, California, nope, you're right. California does not honor any other state's concealed carry permits.
And like I said, I'm
So
pretty sure New York's the same way.
New York is the same way.
I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but I think it is. And I think that you should be able to protect yourself. Oh, is this the one that we were talking about offline, where here you can have a gun, but you can't have a knife? Or am I
No,
thinking of
so
another one?
that's oh, you're talking about Missouri's.
Oh, is it Missouri's about the knife? Okay, well, there's
No,
that.
no, no, no. I'm sorry. That's North Carolina is the one with the
Uh,
knife. We'll
uh,
get there. You're jumping ahead of me here.
I'm sorry. I'm
Um,
sorry. I was just going with facts on top of my head. I
but I
apologize.
mean, if we continue along the line of thinking, right, and we're looking at reciprocity, now we talk about like the Second Amendment overall, and Missouri has historically had a law called the Second Amendment Preservation Law, right?
We've
It's
had it for a few
or
years now.
excuse me, the Second Amendment Preservation Act, and your state has had it for, like you said, a couple years.
I think
But
since like
here's
2008, I want to say.
yeah, and what they've got going on right now is Missouri HB 1175 is just the reestablishment of that Second Amendment Preservation Act, and I'm not sure how often they have to reestablish it, but essentially what they've gone and done is they went through and they kind of the act actually has, you can read through all of the lined out spots, right? Like they've got whole portions of this of the act completely lined out and reworded to mean certain things. And the thing that jumped out to me about this one, oh, by the way, this is Republican introduced. Surprise, surprise. But the important thing that jumped out to me about this one was that they changed the wording when it comes to the legal possession of weapons, right? So if
I'm gonna
you
want
go
to
ahead.
jump in real quick. I'm gonna jump in real quick. 2017 was when you could still carry it without a permit, and the last time it was touched was April 2024 is when they kind of tweaked it a little bit. So go back to sorry, I had just
Yeah.
thrown out that fact, and I wanted to make sure it was correct.
So they're tweaking it again. And I guess maybe the thing that jumped out to me was the thing that they changed. But they lined out a lot of things and they reworded a lot of things. But the thing that really jumped out to me was the way that they worded the legal possession of a gun, right? And so when you look at it, it's an interesting one to say the least, right? And it says it if you are a law-abiding a citizen of the United States, that means that you can have a weapon, you can possess a weapon, you can't be infringed upon for possessing that weapon. And what it means and what they defined law abiding citizen as a person who is not otherwise precluded under state law from possessing a firearm. So if you meet the metrics and you didn't get in trouble for any of the laws that would preclude you from owning a weapon, like, oh, I don't know, multiple count felonies that stopped you from owning a weapon and maybe in the traditional sense getting a top secret clearance, but now you're the president of the United States. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
digress.
It's
But
just crazy, you know.
yeah, it's weird. Our own president, he can't own a
Well,
weapon.
it's
Um,
like in my reserve unit, we had someone who beat the shit out of their fiance, um, and because we are military police, we are supposed to carry weapons, but that's for really any in the military. Typically, you have to. That's one of your halves. Like you have to carry around a weapon anywhere, and so because of that, and we had to discharge him out because he wasn't by law allowed to carry any weapons anymore. So little
right, and that's where the law hits, right? So if you're not
right.
precluded from state law from possessing a firearm, then guess what? You can own a weapon.
Yeah, if you
However,
are, go ahead. I'm sorry.
it changes some of the wording here. And the way that it changes it is that it adds shall not be construed to include anyone who is not legally present in the United States or the state of Missouri. So if you think back to Caroline Leavitt's first press conference, right? And for those of you who are not in the know, right? Caroline Leavitt is President Trump's current press secretary. And she got up in front of the press and she very clearly stated that it is the position of the Trump administration that anyone who is in the United States undocumented is a criminal because you came into the United States via illegal means. Therefore, you are a criminal. So, what Missouri is doing here is saying we agree and we concur with the president and his administration, and we will not provide Second Amendment protections to undocumented immigrants here in the United States. So, depending on where you fall on that one, like I personally, I see where they are coming from, and I kind of agree. But at the same time, for undocumented immigrants who have been here for 20, 30 plus years and have tried every single every single opportunity that they get to try to become legal documented citizens of the United States and continuously get turned around and turned back and turned away or get shut down because they're in the process and the process takes so many years, and then all of a sudden this asshat comes out of nowhere down an escalator and wham, now they can't become citizens because Trump has blocked it. And then he's in there for 4 years, so you have to wait 4 years, and then you get this Biden guy who's senile and barely in control of his faculties, and he's there for 4 years, so you start the process up, but it takes a while, and because it takes a while, you wind up 4 years later with, oh shit, I'm getting deja vu. That fucking asshat that came down an elevator, now he's president again.
And,
Now I
and they
can't do it anymore.
and they're
Like,
going door to door to come get you. Yeah,
right. So
and
it's
and you might get executed just because you broke the law for so many years.
right. And
Jesus Christ.
thank you, AG.
Sorry.
But it's
Yeah.
no, you're fine. You're fine. You're 100% right. But that's my point, right? Like
Right. Yeah.
some of these people have been living here. They've been paying taxes. They've been working their asses off to give their families a better life, and they've been trying to become citizens. But our immigration system is broken, this is a conversation for a whole nother topic and a whole nother episode. But it you're we are doing this thing where we are marginalizing whole groups of people based off of a blanket definition. And so this bill right here eliminates Second Amendment protections for individuals who are undocumented in the state of Missouri when it comes to preserving the Second Amendment. Now, I know that the state can't trump the Constitution, right? But at the end of the day, given the way that the political landscape is, anyone who tries to challenge this who is undocumented will likely end up deported before their case ever gets. But
Deported within hours.
yeah, absolutely. But
So
even more dangerous is that it's likely that the Supreme Court would say, "Yeah, sorry,
sorry.
the
Yeah.
Constitution doesn't apply to you because you're not a citizen."
I will take you off your little tangent, and, which is fine, and go through some facts here for Missouri. It's been since 2017. We also have the constitutional carry. If you are 19 or older, you can possess a firearm. If you are 18 or older who is in the military or honorably discharged, which I mean, usually you're over 18 anyway, be discharged. Anyway, uh, you can get a weapon. You can't bring it within 25 feet of a polling place, and any property that says you're off limits, you can't have. Also, our constitutional carry doesn't go for other states, obviously, because it's constitutional. You might need a carry permit for the state that you're visiting if they require one. And you can, oh, here we go. The enforcement, the Missouri law enforcement can issue concealed carry permits to gun owners traveling to other states. So it's kind of interesting. We believe in our guns, okay? That is, but
I
what
I
was,
don't disagree. That's I'm very supportive of that.
and the guy behind the desk is like, oh, you just had your name changed, and I had my marker changed too, but that's neither here nor there at this point. But yeah, I had my name changed, and they're like, we don't know if you'll actually be able to. We don't know if you'll actually get issued a weapon because I was like, fair enough, fair enough, um, because it was my first and middle name that got changed. Um, not just like I got married and my last name changed. It was like the whole enchilada just about. But and I didn't choose. I chose non-binary on there because of how things go. And they're like, we don't know if you'll get your rifle because of all that crap. And sure enough, I did, obviously, but it makes me wonder how those things would go now. Um, that's where my little spot went because I can't get a passport, but fuck, I can get a weapon.
Hopefully.
Hopefully, I don't know. I haven't tried. Fuck.
Well, I mean, I will say that if you remember when Biden took office, a lot of Republicans lost their weapons in the lake. So
Yep.
you might be able to go to the bottom of the lake and pick some up.
Those the fishing, the magnet fishing is really
Yeah.
popular. So
Yeah.
might
Yeah,
have to go do that.
absolutely.
And just like I was just thinking, fuck, if I travel, with all these guns that I find at the bottom of the lake, will I, get issued a permit now? Huh.
Hmm.
Mm, things to consider. Anyway,
Yeah.
anywho,
Yeah. But speaking of traveling and reciprocity, and you brought up Missouri's constitutional carry, North Carolina, my beautiful state, is has two bills, NC S50 and NC H5, the Senate bill and the House bill. They're essentially the same bill, they're just titled differently. The House bill is titled the Constitutional Carry Act, whereas the Senate bill is titled the Freedom to Carry North Carolina Act. Both of these bills are designed to allow for individuals to carry in a concealed fashion their weapon without the requirement of a permit. Now, just like Missouri, there is the requirement that if you are going to go across state lines and you want to execute or utilize the reciprocity agreements between states, you have to have a permit. So they do still have the permit issuing capability here in North Carolina if this bill were to get passed. Oh, by the way, another Republican introduced bill. But the thing that really stood out to me on this one, and Avery, you brought this up
I know. I'm
already.
sorry. I was just, I'm still just my mind is still Jesus.
Yeah, but what this law does, right? In it, the very beginning of the law, it states, except as otherwise provided by the law, it is unlawful for any person to willfully and intentionally carry concealed about his or her person any Bowie knife, dirk, dagger, slungshot, loaded cane, metallic knuckles, razor, shuriken, stun gun, or other deadly weapon of like kind, except when the person is on the person's own premises.
I,
So
I,
these bills are designed to legalize concealed carry without a permit of a firearm.
But damn the
but you
brass
still
knuckles.
can't, right? Like you can't conceal your brass knuckles. You better keep them on your hand so everyone can see them, right? Like,
I mean,
what are we doing here?
I'm just saying, it. Nope, not something I can say. Nope, not something I can say on here. So yeah, I got a friend. It's TV time. Even though mom was on TV, but here we are.
Yeah, I mean, hey, she likes to be there, but the long and short of it here is that it's insane to me that we do this, right? Like,
Absolutely
we want
stupidity.
to allow for the hiding and concealment of firearms, right? Now, mind you, in North Carolina, open carry without a permit is completely allowed. So I mean, I go into Walmart, and when I came from California out here, and I walk into a Walmart and there's guys with guns that's strapped to their hip. I I'm not gonna lie, it kind of freaked me out for a minute because I came from California where like guns are
But I
supposed
mean,
to be not
but I
seen
mean,
and definitely not heard.
it's another, it's a Marine thing too. You're just like, okay, you're an issue. Fuck, how are we gonna be? It's one of those. You're a
Right,
threat.
right, a
So
hundred percent.
I get it.
I'm not. I am opposed to open carrying. Right, like I will not go out in public carrying my gun on my hip openly at all. Period. Not no
Yeah, you got
exceptions.
fucking Karen's gonna fucking. Anyway, that's a whole nother day. That's a whole nother
Yeah,
day.
but if someone wants to, by all means, go ahead. It's weird, like you're a weirdo for doing it, but go ahead.
It means you
Absolutely
have no
carry.
balls. To be honestly, you have no balls. If
Yeah,
you got to show it off,
compensating.
yep. If you got to show it off, you shouldn't have it to begin with. We only show to use. Anyway,
But
back to
long story short, like we've gotten to the point where like you can't conceal knives, you can't conceal blades, but now you can conceal a gun, and a gun can do a lot more damage than a blade. Because I'm gonna see you coming with the blade, right? Like, I mean,
uh,
well,
again, you know what? It's not. I'm not threatening anybody. So here's the thing. We have. I like guns and I like knives. The thing I like about knives is knives are personal. Like knives are very personal. So you could shoot anybody, but it takes some gall to get up there and look someone in the eye or grab them and so they're very personal. So
yeah. Yeah, me and
I
the
still
husband are
I
watching Dexter right now, so you're right,
right,
100%.
it's very personal. I again though I don't I, I being from the country, like old hick person that I am, we carried knives everywhere. So to me, it's like second nature. So guess I've been doing shit wrong for a while, but to me, you never know when you're gonna need a knife. Fuck it.
Right, but so this doesn't preclude like there is a spot in the law where like if you got a pocket knife, you can put that in your pocket and it's not counted as like concealed
But
carry.
but
But
no K bar, huh?
yeah, no K bar, no nothing like that.
Jesus.
Although it does go to show like why the hell would you be concealing a K bar?
Like fuck. But I did go. So when I got to Kuwait from Afghanistan, they took away our weapons, right? Because
Hmm.
you don't need it in Kuwait. Freaked the fuck out of me because we needed it in Afghanistan. But I got questioned as to, okay, why you have a big ass knife strapped to you? Well, I carried it in Afghanistan because you kind of fucking need it. Maybe like you're gonna run out of ammo at some point. Like, but it was
Hmm.
just like, why do you? I was like, because you took my pistol. Why and my rifle? Why wouldn't I have something to protect myself? Especially when we already know there's someone going around, you know, committing MSTs. So what the hell?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my little rant on that. But it's stupid that you can't conceal a knife. But back to your I wouldn't conceal a K bar like that hurt.
Now, to be clear, just in case I don't know if we hit it, Avery, but I agree with this bill.
Yeah.
I mean, I do agree with
You should be able to, yes.
yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, like, I'm still questioning the whole knife thing. Like that, I just don't know. In addition to that, like I did see something about it's subsection 14-401.24
Oh,
of this
look at
bill,
you.
and it's titled "Unlawful Possession and Use of Unmanned Aircraft Systems." And then it doesn't say anything other than that, except to define a weapon as something that can be used to maim, uh, seriously injure, maim, or kill another individual. So, as a drone owner myself, I might have to drop my drone in a lake. But the
Right? I just
concern
got
here
mine.
is like,
Gonna lose it.
are we are we calling are we calling these are we calling drones weapons now? And are we going to regulate them the way that we regulate weapons?
I
Like,
mean,
uh,
listen. Technically, drones can definitely be used as weapons, as we've seen. Now, stateside, absolutely. I think it's ridiculous, but gives me ideas that would be kind of fun. But anyway, absolutely ridiculous. But we do have places where planes are hitting drones, and then it become that technically that could become a weapon, because you just took down a shit ton of people, and we have seen drones used as weapons, but these little things that you spend maybe 20, $50, $100 on, totally not weapons. They're just fun to have and stalk your neighbors with. I mean,
and by neighbors you mean deer, right?
absolutely.
But
The raccoons, man.
so here's the thing, right? This goes back to that whole creating laws that are already laws. There, there's already laws
Absolutely.
governing the possession and use of unmanned aircraft systems. There's so many laws that you are probably breaking about 7 of them just flying in a legal manner, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah, you can even use them in national forests and shit like that. Any of the monuments and stuff like that, right? You can't have them. I learned that in like 2022,
well,
so
you
that was
can't fly them
interesting.
in DC because DC is the entire DC metro
Oh
area
yeah,
is a no
it's like
fly zone.
right. Well, like in Florida, I went to one of the little things in one of the forts, and you couldn't fly it. So
Now,
there was that
so
info.
here's some a crazy bit of knowledge for you,
Hmm.
right? When it comes to national forests and even state forests, you can't take off and land in the forest.
Fair.
But if you park outside the forest, you can fly into the forest as long
Fair.
as you land back where you took off from.
I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one.
So
But don't go
that
to Area
cool
51
little
and
useless
fly anything.
information piece there.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, and then there,
yeah.
man, don't
So,
fly over Area 51.
I mean, some people are stupid enough they're gonna try, man. It-
Don't fly over bases, especially not right
right?
now with all those crazy UFO sightings in Jersey. Like,
You
let's
know,
not do that. That's a bad idea.
I'm just saying, people are stupid.
Yeah, not everyone, but there are
Not
some.
everyone. Yes,
Yep, that's what the Darwin Awards are for.
I'm
But
starting to wonder, to be honest.
but again, Republican introduced. I agree with this thing. I have concerns about the whole blade thing, but long story short, this is another pro gun, pro 2A, pro weapon owner piece of legislation or pieces of legislation that I'm definitely supportive of. And I mean, at the end of the day, you are going to be hard pressed to find me any type of gun legislation that is pro
Absolutely.
gun that I'm going to be against, right? You're going to be hard pressed to find any type of gun restrictive legislation that I'm going to be supportive of. I personally don't think that guns belong in schools, and I think that we need to take a look at the why of school shooting instead of trying to treat the symptom. Let's try to treat the cause. Uh, but at the end of the day, I get where we're going with this. Like we have to do something to protect our kids. I just I wonder if arming our teachers is the right one. And if, for folks who haven't been listening this entire time, I'm referring all the way back up to Alaska. So,
Yeah, I mean,
but yeah,
they already deal with so much, and they already have to go over how to lock their doors and all of these things. I don't think. I don't think they should have to worry about it themselves. I think that's why
Yeah,
we have again resource officers for a reason.
100%.
Now that you
Yeah.
mentioned, EOs, like, oh, we have been through some in the last few days. Holy crap! He's just going. He doesn't
Yeah, I
stop.
mean, but it wasn't like it. It wasn't as many as his first day in office, and I mean, not nearly as many as his first week in office. But the ones that he's starting to push out now are starting to become more and more like eyebrow raise type things.
More like I hate
The
you, so this is what we're gonna do.
Right. So I mean, there was the one on Friday, which is the protecting Second Amendment's right, protecting Second Amendment rights. God, I can't speak right now.
Happens.
But before I get into that, he did sign a total of 16 executive actions. 8 of those were orders, 5 were memorandums, and 3 were proclamations, one of which dealt with one of the memorandums dealt with the Super Bowl, and one of the proclamations dealt with defining the Gulf of America Day.
Uh,
God, I can't believe
so
I'm
fucking
saying Gulf
stupid.
of America.
So stupid.
Ah,
So fucking stupid.
ah. It just makes me feel dirty. Like, why are we doing this?
Listen, Kosha.
Okay, so this protecting Second Amendment rights executive order really does nothing. It's an order that has absolutely no teeth currently. Essentially, what it does is it directs his secretaries within specific areas, Homeland Security, Health and Human Services, to take a look at the rules and regulations that their specific agencies have established and identify whether or not those rules are preventing or infringing upon the Second Amendment rights of American citizens. And then provide reports back to him telling him, hey, these are the things and we have to get rid of these, so that he can then sign executive orders and get rid of them. But the one thing that really stuck out to me on this was his requirement to review any studies with regards to gun violence in the United States. And given this administration's propensity to delete databases, I'm concerned that he's going to make efforts to eliminate any type of research or any type of studies or any type of databases as they apply to gun violence in the United States. And what that's going to do, folks, is it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt researchers. It's going to hurt legislators. It's going to hurt lawmakers. It's going to infringe on the ability for organizations like Crayon Box Politics to continuously review and ensure that the facts are out there with regards to what gun violence looks like in the United States. Because at the end of the day, you get rid of this data, and all of a sudden, we can deny anything. Like, oh, there were 30 mass shootings last year. No, there weren't. There were none because we don't have any record of it. Or flip that, right? And now you've got a Democrat in office, and the Democrats like, oh, well, there were 3,000 school shootings last year alone using these types of weapons, so now we have to ban them. And we're like, well, where's the data? And they say, oh, we don't have the data for you. It's not something we can provide to you, right? And like you can put in FOIA Act requests, but long story short, like at the end of the day, that is the only thing that really concerns me with this EO is that risk that we're going to lose that data. And I'm a data person, and I'm someone that absolutely positively
We
needs
have
to
so
see the
many
numbers.
databases. So many databases. God,
I'm
every
bad.
damn day. Oh, we have like what? I swear to God, we have like probably a good 30 databases now. Oh my
Oh,
God.
it's not that bad. I'd have to go back and count.
If I start blowing my damn nose, I feel like that's where I'm at.
Bodily function database.
I
Shit, that mm,
don't do it.
nope, not gonna do it. All right, so but at the end of the day, right? This executive order, for everyone who's like, oh, look at Trump, he's protecting our rights to the Second Amendment, right? I'm gonna pause you right there, and here's what I'm gonna say. Donald Trump signed an executive order during his first administration banning the use of bump stocks following the Las Vegas shooting. Donald Trump used executive authority to infringe on the Second Amendment. Period. Biden did not sign any executive orders with regards to the Second Amendment. Biden did not attempt to utilize executive authority to prevent anyone from carrying or using a firearm. Biden's philosophy was, hey, I'm opposed to this. I do feel that there should be an assault weapons ban, but I'm not going to take executive action because that's Congress's job. Right. So at the end of the day, when you talk to, oh, well, look at this, he signed an executive order protecting our Second Amendment rights. No, he signed an executive order that does absolutely nothing. Nothing. So this is a gimme.
Just makes you look good. That's all.
So for those of you who are like us and are not devoted, who are supportive of the Second Amendment, this is not Trump signaling that he supports the Second Amendment. This is
I
Trump
thought you were
saying this is a political move. That's all this is.
I'm not gonna lie. I thought you were gonna say that you were devoted to databases because I was like, yeah,
Hey, easy. Databases give us the information we need.
I can't disagree.
Yeah, but that's kind of where I stand on this executive order. Avery, you got anything on this one?
No, no.
Yeah, I think when you brought it up to me, it was one of those, this
Why?
isn't really important. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, none of the ones that he's got going on this week are that important, to be honest.
Well, I would disagree with you.
Which
So
one?
the keeping men out of women's sports,
Oh,
the
okay, God,
executive order there.
that's because the bill was not going through the Senate. But yes, I digress.
Yeah, it does seem like this is another one of those that it is a piece of legislation, right? It's something that's 100% working its way through Congress because Democrats are blocking the ability for his appointees to get confirmed. Which, by the way, how did that filibuster go last week?
We got confirmed, so here we are. I don't know.
Touche. So it was just a waste of time, is
I
what you're
mean,
saying.
what hasn't been a fucking waste of time at this point? I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, name one thing that well, okay, the ICC, they ended up having had to go through an EO instead of through the bill. So I mean, there was that, but the HR 23. So not to steal your thunder, fucking again. I apologize.
No, you're
I'm
fine.
just Debbie Downer today about
But
the EOs.
so here's the thing that I have with this EO with regards to keeping men out of women's sport. And the thing that I have is that it is purely based off of this inane sense that somehow trans women have some type of a physical capability that is better or higher than their female counterparts. And I say this. I would agree that within the first year, that might be a thing, right? Because the treatments haven't taken effect fully, and the body really hasn't had the time to transition and go through the process. But after year 2 and into year 3, and after that, and Avery, you've shown me the research on this, and we've talked about this in depth, right? Like we had a whole podcast before the end of season 1 where you sat down and you talked about this with Vanessa. And what I'll say is that, like, the notion that somehow trans athletes are superior to biologically female athletes is false. 100% false. Purely based off the fact that when you go through hormone therapy, that hormone that increased level of hormones is going to have an effect on your body. If you were a female taking if you are a biological female and you are taking testosterone, your body is going to wind up becoming leaner. Your bone density is going to become higher, and you are going to gain muscle mass faster. If you are a biological man and you start taking estrogen, your bone density is going to decrease and your muscle mass is going to decrease, and you're going to start putting weight around your hips and in your tits, and that's just how it works, right? And I'm not trying to be offensive here, but like trans men and trans women are undergoing this process, and when they say that they do not have any type of physical capability beyond their biological, their cisgender male and female counterparts, they're not fucking lying,
Yeah.
right? Like there's this continued effort from the right to push this narrative that, oh well, transgender people are just mentally handicapped, and they have disabilities and they're deranged and blah 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 blah, and Nancy Mace is afraid that she's going to get raped by a transgender congresswoman who's trying to just take a piss.
And
And like
freaking MTG is just gonna get hit on, and we're gonna somehow persuade her to fuck a trans man. So or trans woman. I apologize.
none of the arguments that are coming from the right are valid, right? They're not. They're 100% not valid,
The
and they
fact
keep
that that was
popping off
even
with
an
this.
issue.
Oh my god. The problem for me is that they keep pulling this, oh well, biology, 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 but when we cite biology, we get told to shut the fuck up because we don't know what we're talking about. When we cite facts, we get told to ignore the facts because the facts can be changed to fit our narrative. When we try to speak up in support of our disenfranchised and our marginal members of our society, of our nation, we get told that we're wrong. We get called pedophiles. We get called child groomers. Absolutely the fuck not. Right? So this right here, this keeping men out of women's sports thing is the most bullshit executive order, and it is following along a line of executive orders that are anti-transgender in nature and are absolutely ludicrous. It is not acceptable the way that things are going. It is not acceptable for us to have a leader who is doing the things that he is doing and saying the things that he is saying about American citizens. We have American citizens who can't get passports, American citizens who are looking at not being able to travel outside the country. They're having their passports pulled from them, confiscated, because their gender marker doesn't match the gender that they were assigned at birth. And they can't get a new passport because guess what? They don't look like themselves. Right? Like
Correct.
it blows my mind. Like we are continuously doing this. Continuously doing this. And every single American who is not personally affected by this issue is looking the other way and doesn't give a fuck. Well, guess what, folks? When they're done with them, they're coming for you.
That's correct.
That's all I have to say on that one.
Agreed. It's another time, another day for it.
And then finally, and Avery, I gave you this warning, right? So like,
no, you're good. You're good. Bring
here
it.
comes my rant.
Yep, bring it.
My fellow Americans, wake the fuck up. President Trump just signed an executive order last week titled Eradicating Anti-Christian Bias. And he put into power a radical Christian pastor who teaches prosperity theology, which is that God rewards the truly faithful with material wealth and personal success. And he put this woman in charge of a task force aimed at eliminating anti-Christian bias from our nation and truly returning our nation to one nation under God. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? If the fact that we talked about so many times in the last season that Trump was aligned to Project 2025. We talked about it, and every time we talked about it, the argument was, oh, well, he's said and he's denied and he's distanced himself from Project 2025. Listen up, folks. You need to wake up, open those fucking eyes, take your heads out of your asses, and actually fucking look. Because everything he is doing is in line with Project 2025. Chapter and verse. We now have an executive office position that is aligned with a specific religion. We are now blurring and eliminating and going against the whole separation of church and state part of the Constitution. What are we doing? Why are we continuously fucking doing this shit? I am getting tired. I'm getting tired of watching this thing happen and then having the apologists say, "Oh, well, he's only doing it because they're at risk." Oh, by the way, this pastor that is now in charge of eradicating anti-Christian bias. Yeah, she's a divorcee. She's an adulterer. She's a robber. She's an embezzler. She's a fraudster. She ran a Ponzi scheme. I could mark off in the Bible where it talks about how those things are sins. I could even walk through on, for an adulteress, I'm pretty sure that means that she should get stoned, right? But no, we can't do that because the Bible shouldn't be taken literally, except when it fits her narrative or your narrative.
Yep, they pick and choose. Hey, but interesting enough, have you? I was on the Tiki Talk because I love the Tiki Talk. Man, have you? I think I shared with you one of her sermons. They were something else. So I say go check out her on the Tiki Talk, her sermons. Holy crap!
I mean, you can't go against Trump because that would be going against God, and God is with Trump.
Listen, we're already, we already got told that they were going to come for us, so it don't matter. I'm here for the forever nap.
God saved Trump to save the nation. Savior complex. Like, folks, you need to wake up. And if you are awake because you're listening to us, and I would love to pat myself on the back that, somehow Crayon Box Politics woke you up, and I'm pretty sure you are already awake. It's just why you're listening to us.
Try to be right.
Can you do me a favor and share this podcast with your sleeping compatriots, please? Say, hey, listen to these guys. Hear them out.
I don't know if I want people listening to you because you predict the future and it comes out right.
Yeah, I got to quit doing that.
Freaking dumbest, man.
But at the end of the day, folks, Donald Trump's executive orders continuously hurt the fabric of America. Donald Trump's executive orders are continuously having problems or creating problems for the United States, both internally, domestically, and internationally. And there is no way, shape, or form that his actions can be excused away as, oh, we're putting America first, because we're not. People talk about USAID and how we were spending billions of dollars on things that we didn't need to be spending them on. Ben Shapiro gets out there and says, "Oh, well, USAID spent $25 million providing monetary support and grants for the development of Palestinian cement factories," and then goes into a tirade about what were they using that cement for? Oh, to build the terror tunnels. No, they're using that cement in order to help build houses and roads and infrastructure, the things that are needed to actually run. But no, Ben Shapiro knows best, right?
No, it's DEI. It's an issue.
Wake up, folks. It's time to wake up. America is going to hell. And it's not because of DEI. It's not because of Joe Biden. It's not because of Kamala Harris. It's not because of President Obama.
Not even
it's because
Bush.
Of, and, I mean,
well,
he didn't help. Balanced budget. President Clinton had a balanced budget.
Yeah,
President Bush destroyed it.
But I mean, I think it was the extra time, underneath the desk that maybe helped him out. Just yeah, you walked into that one.
We've just had a litany of terrible leaders, except for Obama. I think Obama wasn't too bad.
I didn't agree with everything, but I did like him a lot.
I didn't vote for him the first time, but I voted for him the second time.
I
Yeah.
mean, he came around.
Yeah, I kind of liked him. At the end of the day, Trump is not good for our nation. He is not putting America first. He
Look
is
at the
not
people he
doing
surrounds himself
anything.
with.
He's not doing anything to support our nation. And when you talk, I go back to my USAID comment. And the reason that I brought it up is because he has effectively shuttered USAID. And while he doesn't have the authority to kill USAID and eliminate it completely, he can wrap it into the State Department, kill its funding, and then let it just wither away. But here's the problem, right? When we do that and we eliminate our ability to go out and provide monetary and informational, educational support to other nations, allied nations, what we end up doing is we end up ceding those nations and those allies to nations like China or Russia, because there's already been reports that China's swooping in and filling in the holes that we leave because of USAID. And when China does this, right, like China swoops in and they make these countries sign away all of their mineral rights, everything, and puts these countries in debt to them. That's how China does it. USAID goes in and provides them with the support for economic development for the sake of economic development. But we're ceding all of this to China. So really, shuttering USAID is a China first effort, not an America first effort. So wake the fuck up, folks. There's a bigger fucking picture. And with that, I think that's I think that's it.
Agreed. I'm with you. I still feel like, we've been at it for 2 years now instead of just a few weeks.
2 years down, 8,000 to go. Well, that's all we got for today, folks. We covered a lot of ground and we hope you picked up some useful info about what's happening in politics right now. We would always love to have any one of you listeners on the show to talk about any specific topic. I'll put the form in the show notes again for you to go in, fill out, let us know what it is that you'd like to talk about. We'll bring you on. Next week, we are going to be taking a look at housing and how the states are going to be impacting housing with regards to the housing crisis that is prevalent throughout our nation. So tune in next week to hear us talk about that. But as I said before, that's all we have for this week. So
Thanks so much for hanging out with us today. Politics can be pretty wild sometimes, but we'll get back to it next week and help make sense of it all. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen.
folks, we are a small grassroots show trying to make a difference, and we really need your help to keep going. Unlike big media companies, we depend entirely upon listeners like you. So if you can spare a few dollars, please visit cranboxpolitics.com/buy me a crayon. Every donation, no matter how small, helps keep us on the air. And with that, I'm Carl.
I'm Avery.
And remember, folks, stay informed
Stay engaged.
and always color outside the political lines.